Fight or flight? Keith Earls started out in senior rugby as a teenage star, and during the course of his long career has become one of the most admired and respected players of his generation. A British and Irish Lion at the age of 21, he has won 93 caps for Ireland and played over 180 games in the famous Red of Munster. Yet, Earls has achieved these milestones while struggling with his mental health for most of his career. A number of crises brought him to the brink of early retirement from the game. A native of Limerick City, Earls grew up in one of its most disadvantaged housing estates. Moy Ross was blighted by crime and violence, which impacted the young Earls, but his natural talent and hard work brought him to the top of elite rugby union. In this extract from his best-selling autobiography, Fight or Flight, Earls recalls the problems he had at school and how he came back to education as an adult. When John Broderick phoned me to tell me I had the green light to start 5th year over in St. Munchin's College, he asked me what subjects I would be choosing for my leaving certificate. I told him to put me down for whatever Ger Sla was doing. I was not too fussy. I think he knew and I knew that I was not going back to get the points for Trinity College. Leaving St. Nessans meant giving up metalwork and woodwork, my two favourite subjects. I ended up doing business and biology instead. I would not be doing transition year. I would be going straight into 5th year. I didn't bother with the books too badly in my last 2 years, and they didn't bother me too badly either. My wife, Adele, says I got away with murder there. I was what you would call a part-time pupil. I did not cause any hassle, and the teachers did not really hassle me. If we were taking turns in class to do a bit of reading out loud, the teacher would skip me. That was because I told them to skip me. I refused point blank to read out loud because I did not get on well with words. I would struggle to read them properly. When we had double French, I would disappear altogether. If the teacher asked where I was going, I would say, "We have a big game at the weekend. I'm going out to practice my kicking." "Okay, so," and off I would go. Basically, it was understood by everyone that I was in school not for the education, but for the playing fields. For the Leaving Cert, I was supposed to be doing subjects at ordinary level. But when the exams came, I took the foundation papers when you just had to tick a load of boxes. You did not get any points in your Leaving Cert for foundation level, but you did get out of the exam hall fairly lively. I was gone after half an hour most days. Then for the biology exam, I didn't bother showing up at all. Instead, I went swimming with my old mates from St. Nessans at the Ardnacrusha Bridge. They didn't do biology in Nessans for the leaving, so the lads had the day off. I was outside the exam hall about to go in when the phone rang. Sure, I could not turn them down. It was a lovely hot day. What else would you be doing? I would not recommend that attitude now. There is a reason why people say education is important. There is a reason why teachers tell you to pay attention in class. There is a reason why your parents tell you to study more. But if you do not understand the reason at the time, there is less chance you will do it. And in fairness, studying is hateful to a lot of teenagers. It is unbelievably boring and annoying if you are not that way inclined. How are you supposed to do it if you do not have the aptitude for it? There were fellas in my class who had no aptitude whatsoever for sport. If they were forced to do it every day, it would be a horrible experience for them. It was a bit like that for me, except the other way around. I was okay up to my junior cert. I passed all the subjects as far as I can remember. But after that, I could barely bring myself to open a book. It was torture. I could not concentrate. I had no feeling for it and not much interest in it. I came alive in the woodwork and metalwork classes. For other classes, it was like someone would switch me off inside. But then that left me without an important life skill. I do not know how the education system can fix that. Every person leaving school should be able to read and write properly, but for a lot of kids, they do not suit the system, or the system does not suit them. I was in that category. Nearly 14 years after my leaving cert, at a training camp in Portugal in January 2020, Andy Farrell arranged one-on-one meetings with the members of the squad. He was new in the job as Ireland head coach. He was establishing relationships, getting to know us and us getting to know him. In my session, we got round to talking about life after rugby. Did I have any plans afterwards? I told him I did not know what I was going to do. In passing, I said that I was brutal at school. I could barely read or spell, so I would not be getting some sort of white-collar professional job. I had no qualifications like that. He showed a lot of empathy, the way he replied. Faz, Andy Farrell, is a working-class fella too. He didn't have the silver spoon growing up either. He said he knew lots of people who struggled with their reading and writing. It was more common than you would think. He said I should just practice it more. Even when sending text messages and emails, use the predictive text. The more you do, the better you will get at it. A couple of weeks later, we are on a weekend camp between Six Nations games. The staff have arranged one of their evening get-togethers for a bit of crack and relaxation. We are in a conference room in the hotel. Simon Easterby has put together a spelling competition. Big, complicated words that the contestants have to try and get right. It is a forwards versus backs jobs. 3 forwards, 3 backs. And as he is picking them, I'm going to myself, Jesus, do not pick me, Simon. Whatever the fuck you do, do not pick me. Sure enough, he picks me. You are not supposed to have a choice when there is messing like this going on. You are supposed to get up and face whatever prank is happening. But I refuse. The lads are all joking and egging me on, but I say no. I am not going up there. Thankfully, Faz steps in. He remembered our chat from a few weeks earlier, so he just declares, Earlsy doesn't do spelling competitions, and that diffuses the situation. Later, Simon comes up to me privately and apologises, which is very nice of him, but there is no need because he just did not know. Funny enough, I'm not embarrassed by the episode at the time. I don't want to stand up and make a show of myself, but I am not embarrassed either when Faz says I don't do spelling competitions. 10 years earlier, I would have been mortified. But I am getting more confident in myself as I get older, and less self-conscious. Since my diagnosis with bipolar in 2013, I have had to do a huge amount of work on myself to try and get to a better place. Out of that work came an appetite for self-improvement in general. If anything good has come out of it, it is getting to understand that you are not stuck with something forever if you don't want to be. You can change. You are not static. You don't have to be the victim of your circumstances or your conditioning. You can take control of your destiny, at least to some degree. I am not saying it's easy. It is hard. You have to get the tools. You have to apply yourself. You have to put up with frustrations and setbacks and trial and error. Maybe that's why a lot of people cannot get out of the rut they are in. Because it is hard. It takes time and determination and discipline. That is where all the years of training in sport can help. It ingrains you into a discipline and a work ethic. When it came to my basic literacy skills, there was another project I had to take on. There was a path to self-improvement here too. Obviously, I needed to do it for my own sake, but there was another powerful motivation appearing as well. My daughter Ella May was starting to bring home some homework back from school every day. And naturally, she liked to have Daddy to help her with it. And Daddy, to his shame, was not always able to help her. That is not a nice feeling. During lockdown last year, the kids were homeschooling and I was trying to help out, but in all honesty, I was not able to help them much. Adele did most of it with them. It got to the stage where Ella May would be asking, did I ever do anything in school? Did you learn anything at all? Well, I learned that it is probably not a good idea to go swimming the day of your Leaving Cert biology exam. It is not a good idea to finish school only being half able to read and write. Being good at sport is not enough. At the time, you think it is the perfect escape hatch out of the education system, but eventually you run into a cul-de-sac. I remember one of the first times I signed an autograph. We were on a training camp in Cork, and this fella came up to me with a jersey looking to get it signed. So I signed it. Best wishes, Keith Earls. Then a few weeks later, I saw the word written down somewhere, and the correct spelling was wishes. When I realised my mistake, I felt unbelievably embarrassed and vulnerable. I could feel the cold sweat coming out of me. The problem added to my paranoia too. I had to send emails and text messages every day, the same as everybody else. But I did not know where to put in full stops or when to start a new sentence. Something as simple as that made me really uptight for fear of making a show of myself. It is something that everyone takes for granted, but that only makes it worse if you are a fella who cannot do it. I would always be asking Adele to check the spellings of words before I would send a text or email. She has been my teacher here, as in so many things. Even in St. Nessens, she'd be helping me with my homework, my maths and English in particular. Like, for example, I did not know how to put the address on an envelope properly. If I was asked to sign a message for a fan and post it, the first time Adele saw me doing it, I wrote the full address across the envelope in one continuous line. She was looking at me. Do you not know that you go down line by line with the address? No, that's news to me. Then I put the stamp up in the left-hand corner instead of the right-hand corner. Now she was looking at me like I had two heads. To this day, if I am reading a book in bed, I will be asking her to explain the meaning of words to me. She tells me I have come on in leaps and bounds the last few years. I probably have too, in fairness, but I struggle with how words are spelled. I have never got tested, but I have a feeling I might have a touch of dyslexia. I was supposed to get tested for it last year, but then the pandemic kicked in and the opportunity was called off. I am no expert on it, but from what I have learned over the years, I would not be surprised if I was dyslexic. I'm going to get the test for it later this year, hopefully. But letters and words are definitely a problem for me. I leave letters out of words when I'm doing an email or any kind of writing. An E or an N or an A. I have to revise what I have written and check with my dictionary. I keep a dictionary handy in my office. I will often just open a page and put my finger on a word and learn what it means and how to spell it correctly. During the 2021 Six Nations, I was asked to take part in a promo for one of our sponsors. It was basically a bit of video banter among a few players. Andrew Trimble and Donncha O'Callaghan were the hosts. Myself and Tig Furlong were the guests. We were in the team hotel, but in separate rooms because of the social distancing. We were hooked up to the lads on Zoom calls. It was one of those skits where you are asked light-hearted questions about your teammates. Who takes the longest to get dressed? Who is the best dancer? Who is in charge of the music? The catch for me was that you had to write your answers on a whiteboard with a marker. My answer for one of them was Shane Daly, my Munster teammate. Simple enough to spell, but I left out the N in Shane. I realised my mistake and rubbed it out on the whiteboard and said his name instead. I knew how Shane is spelled, and yet I still missed a letter. This happens to me regularly. It is why I think I might be dyslexic. I won't know until I get it properly tested, but my life experience tells me there is something not quite right in my relationship with words on a page. It is not holding me back as much as it used to. Of course, it affected my confidence when I was younger, probably contributed to my shyness in some way. But I am pretty good at speaking now. I can stand up in a players' meeting and say what I want to say. I can do media interviews and talk shite with the best of them. I hope readers of this book will find it pretty simple to read. That is my intention. I know there are a lot of kids who come from areas like mine who struggle at school. I am trying to use plain, basic English here in case a few of them might be interested in reading my story. If they leave school with literacy problems, I hope they realise they can get help. I'd hope they would not be too embarrassed about it to ask for help. It is a basic life skill. It is a basic human right, you could say. I am sure I'm not the only professional sportsman who abandoned the books too young. It happens in soccer a lot. Fellas who are singled out for big things from an early age and put all their eggs in that basket. Then if they do not make it, they are kind of left stranded. The culture in pro rugby in Ireland is a bit different. Fellas are encouraged to continue with their studies or to go on various courses. It's a healthier environment because of that. In my case, that avenue was not really open to me. Or maybe it was, and I just did not see it. Anyway, I am making up for lost time now. I am old in sporting terms, but young in terms of the time I have ahead of me, touch wood. To answer Andy Farrell's question that day, I'm planning on going into business. As for my education, I will keep on turning up for class every day at the University of Life.
If reading, writing, maths or technology is holding you back, free phone 1800 20 20 65 to see how we can help.